when Aristotle talks about politics as the architectonic science, the science which orders all other acts towards the final end, which he views as happiness, but which he views happiness as that which is achievable within the political. So if happiness is the final end and happiness is something that is achieved within the city, then politics in the Aristotelian sense is the architectonic science. It's the highest science. But the problem is, even if you pick up Aristotle's argument there and then go, but happiness is not achievable in the city in a self-sufficient manner, but happiness is rather beatitude. All right, so man's end is not merely political. Man's end is now supernatural. So man's end surpasses the political, it moves past it. Now the architectonic science then becomes the science which orders everything towards that supernatural end, not the natural end. So we can no longer, now, what does that do to politics? Can we now talk about politics as the architectonic science? It's like, well, sort of, if what we now mean is that the supernatural end, or this final end that we are ordered towards, is always achieved through the political, right? So we don't sidestep the political, we move in it and through it towards the final end. It's the only way that it is achieved basically as a social entity, as a social being. But it's if we talk about politics as the architectonic science, if that's going to be our like basic definition, then the highest form of politics then is going to be theological, right? It's no longer this merely human. And so when Christians make a mistake then when they take Aristotle's definition of politics and then when they are now going to be Christians, don't then move that highest science into a theological science, right? They can't still maintain that politics is the architectonic science in the way in which Aristotle did, based on Aristotle's own definition, right? If they believe, as Christians do, that the final end is not on this earth, is not in this world, but is rather surpassing it or transcendent to it. Right? So there's an initial move there that makes us consider politics in a completely different frame.
Yes, right. Because God is the one who is ultimately bringing man to his fulfillment, and therefore the city is not the final end.
The final end. It's funny because it's like, well, is the final end achievable within the city? It's like, well, happiness, to the extent that it's achievable on earth, is achievable within the city, theoretically. I mean, sin compromises this, but let's just set that aside for a second. Theoretically. But it's not achievable within the resources that the city itself brings to bear, right? Like it's no longer, so the self-sufficient thing is not the city. The self-sufficient thing is the cosmos as a whole, being led, being governed by the perfect statesman, God himself. All right, so the common good, or the self-sufficient thing, is the idea of a city as being self-sufficient is completely exploded.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean it's not a perfect community, in the sense that if human beings achieve their perfection, or achieving their perfection, what does the human community within that perfection, what is its final form? Well, it may very well be a sort of just city, a sort of just polity of that sort. And so then you see that there can be a perfection in the city as the perfect community in the human sense of this is the perfect human participation in which is really the perfect self-sufficient community, which is the cosmos as a whole.